Bad Chad Hiltz is 53 years old, and he's finally talking about something big. Yes, it's exactly what we all thought it would be. People know Chad for building crazy cool cars, being a rebel, and acting tough in his garage. He always does things his own way. Fans know him as the guy who can take old rusty cars and make them look amazing. But when it comes to his personal life, he keeps things pretty quiet. For years, people have been wondering about things. His loyal fans whispered about stuff, people had a feeling about something they couldn't shake off, and now Bad Chad himself is saying it's true. The truth is finally out and everyone is talking about it again. So what exactly did he tell everyone? Let's find out. Asterisk asterisk, the man before the cars. Chad Hiltz's early years asterisk asterisk before the shiny paint jobs, loud engines, and TV cameras ever found him. Chad Hiltz was just a small-town boy with big dreams that most people couldn't even imagine. While the world would one day know him as Bad Chad, the master of wild car makeovers and star of Bad Chad Customs, his story started way before he was famous. Chad was born on August 31, 1971, in Kingsport, Nova Scotia, a quiet little Canadian town near the big tides of the Minas Basin. Kingsport wasn't known for fast cars or fancy lifestyles. Kingsport was the kind of town where neighbors waved from their front porches. You could smell the ocean in the air, and life moved slowly with the seasons. But under that quiet, salty calm was the perfect place for a young mind like Chad's to grow wild with big ideas. His childhood was shaped not just by the land around him, but by the spirit of making things work, even when there wasn't much money. Chad came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. His parents were Doug and Patricia Hiltz, and he grew up in a house where working hard wasn't just something you should do, it was something you had to do. Growing up in a simple home in Kingsport, Nova Scotia, Chad quickly learned that when you need something but don't have it, you figure out how to make it work. That wasn't just how you invent things, it was how you lived. His father, Doug Hiltz, wasn't a rich man, but what he didn't have in money, he made up for by working really hard. Doug spent long hours fixing car bodies, patching up old cars with more muscle and heart than money. He wasn't fixing cars for rich collectors or fancy racing. He was making them run because people needed them to get to work and live their lives. And little Chad was always watching, soaking up everything like a sponge. Money was tight, and there weren't many nice things, but the real treasure was in the hands, on lessons Chad learned just by watching his father work. And while some kids were outside playing baseball or video games, young Chad was often buried in his own little world, drawing futuristic cars in the edges of his school notebooks, or playing with broken tools and leftover parts. He wasn't interested in textbooks or tests, but give him a pile of junk, and he'd see amazing possibilities. That talent for turning scraps into something special, it started right there in the family garage. School was never where Chad Hiltz really did well. Even though he tried to follow the normal path and even signed up for an auto body class in college, Chad found himself fighting with regular education. He eventually dropped out of both high school and college, not because he was lazy, but because the system didn't fit the way his brain worked. But where many people would have seen failure, Chad found freedom. Without strict rules or school boundaries, he was able to make his own path, one powered by vision, gut feelings, and a deep love for the art of transformation. Even as a kid, Chad showed signs of being more than just a curious car lover. He was an artist at heart, obsessed with shapes, movement, and the personality of machines. He'd draw hot rods with wild fins and sketch concept cars that looked like they came straight from a science fiction movie. That artistic eye would one day become his trademark, mixing raw mechanical know-how with visual flair that turned heads far beyond Nova Scotia. And while not much is known publicly about his brothers and sisters or other family members, what's clear is that Chad grew up around people who valued hard work, practical skills, and creative thinking, all of which helped build the foundation for the custom car icon he'd one day become. His childhood wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it gave him the toughness, drive, and originality that still define his life today. Chad was just a small-town kid trying to make something out of nothing. And that's exactly what he did. Asterisk asterisk where toughness meets cars. The making of Bad Chad asterisk asterisk Chad Hiltz didn't just wake up one day with a wrench in his hand and a custom car empire at his feet. His creativity was built in the fire of real-life challenges, born not from being rich, but from pressure. Chad was forced early on to stretch the little he had into something meaningful. That spirit of invention and never giving up would eventually become the foundation of his unique design philosophy. If you can't buy it, build it. If you can't find it, imagine it. Doug's hands on craftsmanship planted a seed in his son. While other kids were off kicking soccer balls or glued to video games, Chad could usually be found in the family garage, nose deep in some half-taken, apart object, trying to figure out how it worked and how it could work better. He wasn't a textbook learner, but give him a pile of old bolts and a busted fender, and he could turn it into something worth looking at twice. That quiet talent for seeing what others missed, finding beauty and function in forgotten things, was there even as a boy. One of Chad's earliest loves was art. Long before he was rebuilding old cars, he was drawing them. Not stick figures or abstract shapes, but sleek, futuristic hot rods and imaginative mechanical creations that spilled across the margins of his school notebooks. He had an instinct not just for how machines worked, but how they should look sharp, rebellious, alive. It wasn't long before the line between art and engineering began to blur for him. As he became a teenager, Chad's fascination with cars only got stronger. But like many small-town kids, he didn't exactly have easy access to expensive tools or fancy parts. What he did have was imagination and a junkyard mindset. He'd save whatever he could: rusty bolts, thrown away fenders, worn-out engines, and breathe new life into them. His projects weren't polished, but they were real. They were proof that you didn't need money to make magic, you just needed vision and a pair of willing hands. At just 16 years old, Chad made a move that would quietly shape the rest of his life. He bought a beat-up 1939 Ford, his very first car. To most teens, it would have been nothing more than a rusty bucket of problems. But to Chad, it was a blank canvas. He threw himself into restoring it, learning new skills with every bolt tightened and panel welded. That car wasn't just transportation, it was transformation. And with every late night in the garage, he grew more certain. Building cars wasn't a hobby for him, it was his calling. Before long, the whispers started to spread. Around small towns, through local garages, and among car lovers in Nova Scotia, people began to talk about a young guy who was doing the impossible with little more than junkyard scraps and raw imagination. That guy was Chad Hiltz, a scrappy teenager with an eye for design, a mind that refused to follow rules, and hands that could turn rusted-out car skeletons into rolling works of art. Word traveled fast, not just because his creations looked cool, but because there was soul in every build. Chad wasn't just repairing old vehicles, he was telling stories with steel, sweat, and salvage. But what people saw on the surface was only a piece of the journey. Long before any fame, long before the world knew the name Bad Chad, Chad had already lived a lifetime of learning through struggle. His 20s were a grind. He bounced between odd jobs and local body shops, doing whatever it took to scrape by. At one point, he even took a job at grain mills, a typical 9-to-5 that many people take out of necessity. It was steady, practical work, the kind that comes with a clock-in, clock-out rhythm and the promise of a paycheck. But Chad was never built for that kind of work. The job didn't allow for creativity or instinct, two things he had tons of. The environment felt suffocating, like trying to bottle a storm. And eventually, it ended the way it had to. He was let go. For most people, that kind of moment would feel like a personal setback. But for Chad, it was a quiet blessing in disguise. It pushed him off the beaten path and forced him to ask a deeper question: why chase stability when you can build something of your own? Instead of looking for another job that didn't fit, Chad went back to the one thing that always made sense: building. He knew how to work with his hands, think unconventionally, and create magic out of the forgotten. So, with little more than vision and heart, he took a leap and launched his first real business, Green Goblin Customs. Located just outside of Canning, Nova Scotia, the shop wasn't flashy. It was tiny, the tools were basic, the space was tight, but it was his, and it was enough. Green Goblin Customs quickly became more than just a place to work. It was a blank canvas. In that small shop, Chad had total freedom. He could take risks, test wild ideas, and follow no one's blueprint but his own. With almost no money and nothing to lose, he turned scraps into statements. Pieces from old lawnmowers, rusted signs, thrown away chrome all found new life in Chad's hands. It was during this fearless period that Chad's legend really began to take shape. The locals gave him a new nickname, Bad Chad, a badge of honor that captured the rebellious, rule-breaking essence of his style. His builds weren't clean in the traditional sense, but that was the point. They were aggressive, imaginative, and loud. Sure, his business started small, but Chad's relentless creativity and drive quickly helped him make a name for himself. Over time, he established himself as a force in the custom car industry, earning 3 World of Wheels awards, being named Master Builder at the Boston Show, and taking first place at Radical Custom Shows. He also received 4 awards at the Radical Speed Sports Show in Moncton. By his late 20s, people were paying attention. By his early 30s, he had become a standout name in Nova Scotia's underground car scene. As the years passed, Green Goblin Customs evolved from a side hustle into a launching pad. More eyes found his work, more customers came calling. What started as a makeshift shop in a quiet corner of Canada began to lay the foundation for something much larger. Chad had finally found his lane, and the road ahead was wide open. But it wasn't just car enthusiasts who started paying attention soon. The cameras did too. Asterisk asterisk from junkyard genius to TV star. Chad's big break asterisk asterisk Chad's shop, once a modest setup, quickly transformed into something more than just a place to work. It became a creative playground. Inside that workshop, Chad wasn't just fixing beat-up vehicles, he was breathing life into forgotten machines. With no fancy equipment or deep pockets, he found a way to craft intricate parts from the most unlikely materials. Scrap metal, bicycle parts, old signs, nothing was too strange or too broken. What others saw as junk, Chad saw as possibility. As his reputation grew, so did his challenges. Running a custom shop in a remote Canadian town wasn't glamorous. It was tough. Supplies were hard to find, money didn't always flow, and reaching a wider audience felt like climbing a mountain. There were setbacks, frustrations, and moments when walking away might have been easier. But giving up was never part of Chad's blueprint. He leaned into the struggle, he stayed true to himself. He kept pushing, kept building, and kept trusting that his work would speak for itself, and it did. Loudly. By 2019, Chad made a bold move. Green Goblin Customs was renamed as Hiltz Auto Co., marking a new chapter in his journey. But even that transformation couldn't prepare him or his growing fan base for what came next. That same year, television producers stumbled upon Chad's offbeat genius. They saw something different in his work, raw, unpolished, but unmistakably original. Soon, Bad Chad Customs made its debut on the Discovery Channel, and suddenly the world got front row seats to the wild world Chad had been building in Nova Scotia for years. It was the moment everything changed. The cameras rolled, and suddenly, people all over the world were watching the magic that locals in Nova Scotia had admired for years. But this wasn't just another car show. This wasn't polished paint jobs and 6-figure budgets. This was raw, gritty, down-to-earth creativity at its finest. Where most automotive shows focused on luxury builds and big money, Bad Chad Customs went in a completely different direction. It was about making something out of nothing. Viewers watched Chad and his small but passionate team turn everything from dented bicycles and rusty oil cans to broken kitchen utensils into street-ready vehicles. No million-dollar workshop, no deep-pocket sponsors. Just a garage, some tools, and an imagination that refused to quit. Chad had always built his world out of scraps now. The world was watching him turn that scrap into gold, one wild build at a time. What truly made Bad Chad Customs so captivating wasn't just the wild builds or the unexpected materials, it was Chad Hiltz himself. With his laid-back charisma, lightning-fast creativity, and unshakable work ethic, he stood out as a rebel in an industry known for playing it safe. He didn't fit the mold, and that's exactly why audiences gravitated toward him. Chad was living proof that brilliance didn't need a billionaire's budget, just vision, guts, and a little bit of madness. Like many who build their lives from the ground up, Chad's path was anything but smooth. Behind the show's bright sparks and bold colors were years filled with uncertainty, financial strain, and deep personal battles. But Chad's story didn't begin or end with television. Long before the spotlight found him, Chad was already shaping a community around his passion. Back in 1998, he launched Rockabilly Weekend, a celebration of custom culture, classic cars, and retro vibes. What started as a small local event quickly snowballed into a beloved tradition, drawing enthusiasts from across the country. It became a cornerstone of his legacy, a space where car lovers and dreamers could gather, share ideas, and celebrate the weird and wonderful. And over time, the industry took notice too. Chad racked up accolades, including 3 prestigious World of Wheels awards in Boston, along with a string of other honors that affirmed what fans already knew: he wasn't just different, he was exceptional. These awards weren't just shiny statues, they were hard-earned recognition in a world that doesn't always welcome outsiders. In a car culture obsessed with polish, perfection, and performance, Bad Chad Customs flipped the script. It made it cool to be scrappy, to work with what you had, to be bold enough to see beauty where others saw junk. And because of that, Chad sparked something bigger than just a fan base. He inspired a movement. All over the world, young builders looked at what Chad was doing and thought, maybe I can do that too. But even as the camera lights flickered and the praise rolled in, there was still a very human story behind the fame, a life made from scrap in more ways than one. Asterisk, a life built from scrap. The full picture of Chad Hiltz, as Chad Hiltz's career skyrocketed. His personal life remained grounded in real-life struggles, responsibilities, and growth. Behind every daring build was a man trying to juggle the pressures of chasing a dream with the demands of being a father. One of the most important parts of Chad's life has always been his relationship with his son, Colton, who was born from his second marriage. And unlike some TV personalities who keep their private lives off-screen, Chad has never shied away from sharing the tough truths. He married young, at just 16 years old, and fatherhood followed not long after. He had a daughter. However, that first marriage didn't last, and years later, at the age of 27, Chad married again. In this second part of his personal life, his son Colton was born on August 10, 1998, marking a moment that would define him far more than any car or TV deal ever could. Unfortunately, that marriage also ended in divorce. But one thing never changed: Chad's commitment to being a father. In interviews and conversations, he's spoken honestly about the tug-of-war between his passion for building and his role as a parent. The two rarely aligned easily. There were sacrifices, missed moments, and heavy choices. But through it all, Chad never wavered in his devotion to his children. He wasn't just shaping metal into masterpieces, he was trying to shape a life his son could be proud of. These days, Chad Hiltz isn't single, not in life or in business. At the center of both his personal and professional universe is his fiancée, Jolene McIntyre, a force in her own right, and one of the key reasons Bad Chad Customs became more than just a garage operation. Jolene, a native of the same small Nova Scotian town where Hiltz Auto Co. operates, has been by Chad's side through the highs and the lows. More than just a supportive partner, she's become an essential pillar in the business. When Chad first met Jolene, he was driving one of his prized builds, the Green Goblin, a custom car that began life as a 1962 Chrysler Windsor. Jolene was working at a local tavern at the time, and their paths crossed thanks to a mutual friend named Reggie, who brought her outside to take a look at the eccentric car. At first, Jolene didn't know much about cars. Chad, however, was instantly drawn to her and wanted her to be part of his world. Over time, he managed to get her involved in his annual Rockabilly Weekend Car Show, where she helped with planning and logistics. After seeing the potential of the event, Jolene started viewing it through a business lens. Her background in business management brings structure to Chad's raw, kinetic energy. While Chad sketches, welds, and transforms junkyard scraps into jaw-dropping art, Jolene keeps the engine of the business running smoothly, handling finances, coordinating logistics, and making sure that their shop functions like a well-oiled machine. And while she may not be in the garage every day grinding metal or sketching wild designs, Jolene has fully embraced the world of custom car building. She shares Chad's belief in doing more with less, in valuing ingenuity over luxury, resourcefulness over perfection. Over time, her admiration for the craft turned into genuine passion. Now, she plays a key role not only in managing the business, but in shaping the creative direction and spirit of the brand. Her business instincts soon extended to Chad's car building work. When Chad offered to build her a car, she chose the legendary 1938 Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic. Jolene began filming the building process and uploading short videos every Friday to show the weekly progress. At the time, she had no concrete plans, no production company, no TV concept, and not even a title. But the videos gained traction, attracting attention from several production companies. Eventually, Love Productions USA signed on to produce the first season of Bad Chad Customs. Viewers got a behind-the-scenes look at Chad and his team at Hiltz Auto as they brought wild car ideas to life. One of the standout builds was a 1930 Oldsmobile transformed into a striking truck. In Season 2, Chad turned a 1957 Cadillac Coupe de Ville into another unforgettable custom. Chad's creations were finally getting the recognition they deserved, and the show seemed like it was just hitting its stride. But behind the scenes, not everything was running as smoothly as the engines on screen. The sudden stop of Bad Chad Customs ***, the final episode of Bad Chad Customs aired in October 2020, and since then, no new episodes have been released. This silence sparked rumors of a cancellation, though neither the crew at Hiltz Auto nor the producers offered any confirmation. Chad later clarified that they were under contract to begin filming a third season in early 2021, but nothing came of it. Speculation swirled around the shop. Some fans questioned whether Chad truly completed the builds featured on the show, suggesting that unfinished projects might be the reason the series ended. Controversy also emerged regarding the Green Goblin, which had been displayed at SEMA. In response, Chad addressed the rumors head-on. He insisted that the show's content was real and that the Green Goblin itself was proof of his craftsmanship. Chad also revealed key details about his TV deal with Discovery. According to him, he built the cars, the producers handled production, and ownership of the cars remained with him and Jolene. He made it clear that Bad Chad Customs wasn't created to brag or pretend. It was meant to inspire others who dream of building cars that anything is possible. To further prove his point, Chad posted a YouTube video in 2021 giving fans a tour of his garage. The video offered a behind The scenes look at what viewers don't see on TV and highlighted how much real work goes into every build. Still, Discovery has yet to officially cancel or renew the show, and the reasons for the silence remain unclear. Many believe that creative disagreements between Chad and the producers may have led to a pause in production. Despite all that, Chad hasn't slowed down. He continues to do what he loves, building one-of-a-kind vehicles from scraps and sharing his passion with a growing online community. Since Bad Chad Customs stopped airing, Chad has increased his activity on YouTube, where he now posts videos regularly. Chad first joined YouTube in 2016 and began uploading content in 2017. Over time, he built a following of over 300,000 subscribers. His early videos featured basic editing and quirky titles like Stealing the Motor from Elvis and Kella DeVille. His breakout moment online came with the video How to Chrome Your Bumper for $50, which earned him his first taste of internet fame. Chad initially created content to help aspiring mechanics and DIY car builders learn how to customize vehicles affordably. His audience grew even larger when he announced plans to build a replica of the $40 million 1938 Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic for just $3,000. That video laid the foundation for Bad Chad Customs and has since racked up over 270,000 views. Now that the TV cameras have stopped rolling, Chad has returned to his roots, creating YouTube videos with the same enthusiasm and energy that first brought him attention. Since parting ways with Discovery, he's focused on improving video quality, posting regularly, and keeping fans engaged. In just 1 month in 2021, Chad rebuilt a Ferrari, painted a vintage Jaguar, and restored a 1940 Plymouth. He even launched a new miniseries titled Bad Chad Builds Another Bugatti. Behind the scenes, Jolene continues to help run the channel, while Chad's son Colton often appears in the videos. Outside of work, Chad doesn't stray far from his passion. His hobby is his career and vice versa. Even after hours, he's sketching, tinkering, and dreaming up new designs. That kind of drive has helped build not just a reputation, but an empire. With an estimated net worth of $90 million, Chad Hiltz has gone from humble beginnings to becoming a powerhouse in the custom automotive world. His income streams include his custom shop, television contracts, and a growing social media presence where fans tune in for updates, inspiration, and insight into his offbeat process. But what makes Chad truly special isn't just the money or the fame. It's his story. He's living proof that greatness can come from the unlikeliest of places, from dirt floor garages, small town setbacks, and the parts everyone else throws away. He never followed a blueprint. He created his own. Chad's legacy is more than just flashy cars and camera time. It's about inspiring people to embrace their creativity, trust their instincts, and never be afraid to be different. He's the guy who took the long road, the hard road, and made it all worthwhile. With the success of Bad Chad Customs, Chad Hiltz finally received the recognition he had spent years working toward. But even with his rise to fame, Chad has never turned his back on his roots. Operating from a modest shop in the quiet town of Canning, Nova Scotia, Chad continues to build jaw-dropping, one-of-a-kind vehicles using the same unorthodox techniques and boundless creativity that defined his early years. Chad's story is one of grit, vision, and relentless innovation. While many builders rely on brand-new parts and high-tech tools, Chad transforms ordinary materials, things most people would discard, into automotive masterpieces. This signature style has earned him admiration across the globe, but for Chad, the goal has never been glitz or glamour. It's always been about building something meaningful from nothing. In the end, Chad Hiltz's journey is about more than just cars. It's about vision, it's about persistence in the face of doubt, And it's about believing that no matter where you come from or what tools you have, greatness can be forged with heart, hustle, and a little scrap metal. What do you think about Chad's revelation? Share in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this.